It is a pleasure to welcome Maryn Mckenna. She is a senior fellow at the Schuster Institute at Brandeis University, a journalist who covers public policy issues, and, of course, author of Big Chicken, the incredible story of how antibiotics created modern agriculture, changed the way the world eats. Welcome to the program, Maryn.
Thank you for having me.
So, give us a sense of what chicken was like in the pre-antibiotic days. I mean, it wasn't even really a staple of at least Americans' diets.
That's true. I mean, of course, none of us were around, but I think our grandparents or great-grandparents would have testified that they had chickens out the back door or on the small family farm all the time. But those chickens were there mostly to produce eggs, and were mostly eaten after they were done with their egg production. So they were older and they were scrawnier, and they were something that you ate only once in a while. But then chicken got transformed. The chickens that we eat today look nothing like and taste nothing like those chickens of our grandparents' time, and they were transformed by intensive breeding and by precision nutrition and by our desire to eat protein a lot more often, and I think more than anything because of routine use of antibiotics.
All right. Well, before we get to the antibiotics, like what was it that was there a specific jump in demand? Was there some type of push because someone saw some profit here? What was it? What was it that I guess was the catalyst for that change?
I think you put your finger on it when you said profit. There's a really interesting history in chicken in which time and time again various kinds of innovation sort of cluster around poultry production, and the supply of chicken actually gets out in front of the demand for chicken. And so periodically there are these transformations in which the poultry industry has to convince people to eat more chicken. And they did it in a number of ways, but the main way they did it, aside from antibiotic use, was by transforming the way chickens look, so that those chickens of our grandparents' time would have been sort of upright, and they would have exercised, they would have run around the barnyard and flapped up into trees, and they would have been kind of slender, and they would have had colored feathers. And now the chickens we eat today are rotund and placid and white-feathered, and they have very big breasts, and they're very sort of tippy when they stand up, and they're just nothing like chickens as chickens evolved to be.
And what was the primary source of protein in American diets when chicken it sort of came onto the scene as a primary source of protein?
So people really used to eat much more beef. And you can pinpoint when chicken starts to become, as it is now, the meat that we eat more than any other, with a lot of precision. It dates back to 1977, to the first government guidelines on what Americans should eat, what we now call the dietary guidelines for Americans. In 1977, the government says Americans should eat less saturated fat, and that is almost universally interpreted as we should eat less red meat and we should eat more white meat, essentially. And from that year, you can see the demand curve take off. That's the first year in which people eat more chicken than they do beef, and it goes up and up and up every year as beef goes down and down.
That's fascinating. Is that and obviously we're going to go back in time to where antibiotics comes into this, but it was in the early 70s. I think it was like around 72. It was under the Nixon administration where we changed our policy about corn, and we started subsidizing corn significantly, which drove I know like beef production. Did it also impact chicken production?
So chickens are, those chickens of the barnyard, the chickens of our grandparents and great-grandparents' time, they would have been feeding themselves for the most part, running around outside, scratching up bugs and insects and so forth. And then we brought them inside and we started feeding them grains. And corn is one of the chief components of chicken feed. So the more you make corn affordable and easily accessible, and the more you expand the production of corn, the more you can expand inexpensively the production of the proteins that are fed on corn.
Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos